You always got to wait an extra second. We are live. Should be good. What is it? 8:59 in the PM, CLE, Eastern Standard Time. We are, May 2nd, 2022. That's the date. And we've got a good show for you guys here today. I have Dennis with me tonight. We might have a moose sighting, but Dennis, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you as always, my friend. It's good to be on. Tonight is definitely going to be a good night. Definitely going to be a room full of some spice. And I just want to start by saying, before getting too spicy, welcome to some friendly faces. Alternate Reality, good to see you. Mark, good to see you. Ram, my man, always a supporter. Thank you. And everyone else, thank you for tuning in. But Sneed, we were talking about things before. I really want to get into this mmWave issue that's been going on right now because you got my blood a boiling.
You want to start with the mmWave story?
Absolutely, because I think it'd be perfect, especially since I was a person that had a 180 on my thoughts on mmWave. So let's get that going. Go ahead and set the premise.
All right, man. So the setup is this. Not everybody is with the mmWave story. Not everybody believes it's important, nor do they believe in the technology. I don't know. I like to believe that in most instances, people that don't believe in that technology probably really haven't tried it or really haven't tested it in any amount of, adequate testing. So like you can't test a new technology once and draw permanent conclusions about the technology, especially in something that's so new and so green. In the case of mmWave, the frequencies are very high. It's a it's a I don't know. It's a signal that I would say is very sensitive, but is much better than people give it credit for. Now, I may be more positive about mmWave than most, but that's because the market I use it in, it's really, really good. So I know a lot of people love the mid-band, and I love mid-band too. I'm Mr. mmWave, and I'm mid-band man. I'm the whole thing, right? That's like I'm with all of it. I personally believe that in order to keep keep mid-band clear of congestion, you're gonna have to leverage mmWave. Big shout out to Austin's Tech, AT&T mid-band starting to show up here in Florida. Yeah, man, we're seeing permits going up. We're seeing towers getting constructed, and upgrades are happening at a pace now. So that's good to see. Thanks for the super chat, Austin. So, the story as it goes, like kind of how I framed it, is not everybody's a believer in the technology. And I personally believe that some of that is just, I'd say, like a personal axe to grind with the technology. Maybe those people tried it when it first came out and it wasn't very good. Maybe it's people with that old traditional thinking, which was you got to have line of sight. You can't use it indoors. It's not practical for mobility. And, I tend to disagree. I happen to use it in a market where it's expansive. There are tons of nodes here and it's all over the place. It's covering segments of cities, and in like some instances most of the smaller suburbs like Lakewood, and Parma's a pretty big city here in like the Cleveland area and the surrounding suburbs. It's been great and it's helped out a lot of people, and it needs two things. It needs time and it needs density, and those things are happening all the time, right? Like it just with the development of the tech comes the build out of the network. It just takes time, and some municipalities don't play nice with tower upgrades and small cells. That may be one of the reasons why a lot of these places aren't really seeing it yet, and people have a limited amount of experience with it.
So I'm definitely ready to chime in. I got three things I want to say, and I'm going to try to keep it calm, try to keep it civil. One, I used to be a naysayer for mmWave. Not that mmWave didn't have premise, but that the application would be niche. And as someone that has seen it, experienced it in Pittsburgh, and seen the kind of range that was been able to achieve by these roof-mounted cell sites, I'm a believer. Second, I already see it in the chat right now as we speak, Sneed. There are some comments coming in. Talking about, when a company tries to convince you that you need more, it's all gimmicks and advertising, and other comments coming in saying they're fine with LTE. I'm just going to say it right now. 5G millimeter wave is the only spectrum that there's going to be enough of it to actually provide the true potential of what 5G can behold in later iterations. Without millimeter wave, you can't have 5G home internet. There's not enough mid-band spectrum available to the respective carriers to have enough capacity on their cell sites in order to serve home internet interests, mobile interests, and other future demands. Like in an ideal world, each carrier would have like 600 megahertz of like mid-band spectrum on air that they can mess around with and do what they got to do in an ideal world. But that's not the world we live in.
Right.
The spectrum that's clean, the spectrum that's clear is millimeter wave. It is the most capacitive in its nature just because there's so much available of it and it's so clean. There's like very little interference as far as like other wireless bands that you have to worry about. And honestly, there's plenty of ways that we can improve that piece of technology in order to get things to work. I mean, it just comes down to money and financial willpower and how much we want to make it work. The third thing I just want to say is just putting it bluntly. If carriers don't incorporate millimeter wave as a critical part of their network deployment, then we're going to see congestion happen. I mean, just calling it out, we're already seeing N41 slowdown as we speak to this day. And these are places where T-Mobile has like 100 to 140 megahertz of that stuff on air in combination with their other bands 2 and band 66. 100 megahertz, it sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's not. Like, anytime there's a surge in people, such as for concerts or whatever, that amount of spectrum can easily be saturated. That macro is going to easily be saturated. Small cells are a requirement. Cities and local municipalities aren't going to let you put macros wherever you need them in the most ideal circumstances, and you got to fill in those coverage gaps with small cells. You need small cells that are millimeter wave to help handle the needs of like apartment complexes. You have to have the millimeter wave for those ultra low latencies, that extra fast upload speed. It's the only answer. A network without millimeter wave is not a 5G network.
I agree. You got to do the whole shebang. Like, T-Mobile throws around the term layer cake, and that's really what it has to be. You need legitimate 3 layers. And I would argue the least important of those layers for about 70% of the country's population is low band. Millimeter wave is more important than low band moving forward.
Actually, you know what? I disagree. I think they're all equally important. I think
I understand, but like, we're trying to move away from this whole concept of stretching the signal, and we're trying to densify. As you densify, the reliance on low band reduces.
You're right. I do agree with you on that aspect.
But I'm also a realist.
Yeah.
And I know that they're not going to densify properly. So, yeah, you need the low band.
Well, it has less to do with that for me, Sneed. It's just the simple fact that the whole point of 5G is to get away from a mobile network designed for phones to a network that is designed for all things, including things that don't require a lot of capacity. Like, low band is the perfect spectrum for all the Internet of Things devices that require high battery efficiency and strong signals. That's what your low band is for. That and calling. That's about it.
Yeah, I agree.
But you have an article up.
Yeah, man. This is kind of, like, I would say, a pretty good quick little history on millimeter wave, and then kind of like the future outlook. So you guys can check it out. I linked it in the live chat. This is Monica Alvin, Fierce Wireless. Millimeter wave growth slows, but outlook still favorable, according to Del Oro Group. All right, this is dated from today, May 2nd. All right, so millimeter wave appears to be pacing faster than expected, according to projections that dated back to 2017. This is what I've been saying. The technology, the effectiveness, is moving faster than expectation. This is why I'm so encouraged by the progress thus far. Goes on to say that very few people expected millimeter wave phones to deliver gigabit speeds in a compelling form factor on a network with more than 0.1 million radios would be a reality in just a few years.
I mean, I just want to call out real fast. I've seen as high as 4.8 gigabits per second on Verizon's millimeter wave, and that was in Vegas.
Right, and getting that gigabit speed from the jump was tremendous. I remember my first test on Verizon's millimeter wave network on Nokia gear, and I was shocked. I was astonished. I'm like, this is legit doing 1.4 gigabits per second. This is crazy. And then the second year of testing, and they started transitioning to the Samsung gear, it went over 3 gigabits per second. And then the uplink was like 40 meg, and then it went to like 100 meg. Now it's at like 300 meg on these Samsung sites. It's been absolutely incredible to watch this technology advance and evolve so quickly. It almost feels like every few months there's either some kind of like software upgrade or a firmware upgrade that improves the experience. And I, for one, have enjoyed it very much because it does not require line of sight. The signal bounces everywhere. The downlink and the uplink are second to none. And it's basically the only way we're ever going to have any type of bulletproof capacity in situations where people are sharing the connection for fixed wireless access mobility. And then in situations like stadiums and arenas where it's a slam dunk, like you have to use it. Right. So it says here that we still believe the technology will play a pivotal role in the long term capacity roadmap. The cost per gigabit delta between sub 6 and millimeter wave will gradually narrow as the non-RAN equipment cost of small cell sites decline, repeater solutions improve, and the sub 6 spectrum is exhausted. What have we been saying, Dennis? This is literally what I have been saying for 3 years. And this was just written.
Yeah, and Sneed, if you remember, I was happy to correct myself. Once I saw how good millimeter wave could be, I corrected myself. And also, real quick, I just wanted to say something real quick, Sneed. Remember how you were talking about how the spectrum bounces?
Yeah.
I am confident that there is going to be some intelligent engineers that will figure out ways to make it so that that data can still be used after more bounces. Like right now, with current processing and everything like that, and current algorithms, after about like 2 bounces, the frequency becomes kind of unusable due to basically interference and noise that happens whenever the signal ends up bouncing. But I am confident that we'll be able to figure out a way to actually read it after more bounces, and that will basically solve all the problems with millimeter wave, even without the need for repeaters.
I mean, these are the 3 biggest issues we face with networking. How does a carrier cost effectively build capacity? The data's in. It has to be created with a combination of midband and millimeter wave. It says here the cost per gigabit delta between sub 6 and millimeter wave is going to narrow, meaning it's going to be cost less money to make the capacity through millimeter wave. And the cost of owning and operating small cells is going to continue to decline. I think Verizon actually has that in spades. They own a lot of their own fiber, and they're building their own sites on city properties, so they don't have to pay, private owners and stuff like that.
Side note, real quick, Paul Mitchell got the term for me. Thank you, Paul Mitchell. He got the term. Multipath fading is what I was referring to. My brain was just having a moment.
No worries.
But
yeah, some of the technical networking stuff here. All right, so says here that the group says the 5G capex cycle will be longer than past generations of wireless, including LTE. The reason for 5G's longer cycle is largely tied to all the different spectrum bands that are being used for 5G, from millimeter wave to 2.5 gigahertz, C-band, 6 gigahertz, and more. This is such a tremendous article. This allows people to actually wrap their mind around the concept of why millimeter wave can do much more than they think it can. Like it's a use case. Creating capacity the most cost-effective way. There's only one way to do this. Like we simply, you start off with the spectrum holdings. There's no spectrum licenses owned by companies that exceed 200 megahertz within a specific frequency. right? Like T-Mobile has, 160 average. Verizon has like 160 average of these mid-band frequencies. That's it. There's there's simply no other way to create a tried and true capacity layer that can keep those frequencies free and clear of extremely high data traffic demand. So it's a joint effort. The layer cake example is simply that. You have to do all three. Now, you may question where millimeter wave is today, but I'm a forward-looking guy. When I invest in, take for example the stock market. Dennis, what do you invest for? Like, what's your time frame? Like, what are you looking at when you buy shares? Are you looking a year from now? Are you looking 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How do you look at the stock market?
That's a complex question. I'll give you the simplified answer, though. Generally speaking, I look for stocks that are going to perform in the long haul. By long haul, I'm talking over the span of like 20 years.
See, I think about things long term too. So the first time I tested millimeter wave, I was encouraged. I said, look what it could do today. What is it doing next year? What is it doing in 2023? What is it doing in 2025? What does millimeter wave look like nationally in 2030? But I think some people caught up in the now, right? Oh, I live in rural America and, millimeter wave doesn't make sense here. And just give me some good C band and some good EBS, BRS, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, man, you're missing out on an incredible technology that you should be pushing your carriers to deploy.
Can I just say too, really quickly? I see a lot of comments on coming in talking about. Well, first let's thank Santiago. Santiago, thank you for the incredible generosity as always, my man. We really appreciate the support. He came in with a little super sticker of a pair jumping around saying #1 fan. So we definitely appreciate the incredible generosity.
Thanks,
But
Santiago.
but I see a lot of comments coming in. They're talking about speeds they're getting today from their fire providers and stuff like that. Like 300 by 300 and how it's good for them today. And yeah, I'm a big proponent of talking about how most people don't need gig right now. Most people don't need a lot of things right now that they think they do. That being said, we want wireless carriers to not be developing for the needs of today or even 5 years ago. We want them to be forward-looking in their deployments, because the 5G killer app, as I saw someone use that term, can't come about until the infrastructure is in place to support it. The infrastructure has to come first before anything else can follow. And if the infrastructure never comes, then the quote unquote 5G killer app can never be deployed.
I think the 5G use case here with this capacity has got to be the fixed wireless with the combination of mobile offload. I look at it like,
100%.
I look at it like that at its basic premise. I mean, what did they buy these frequencies for? These licenses were purchased back in like 2017 or something, 2018 maybe, I forget. But they were rolled out pretty quickly, and I'm just glad that they did. And if the fiber goes to rural, if the companies are putting out fiber, then the millimeter wave can be done. And actually, I'm with Dennis. To truly do fixed wireless access properly, you're pushing high capacity fiber over a wireless signal. The best way to do it is millimeter wave. You're going to get the best latency. You're going to get fiber like experience. You're going to get several hundreds of megabits per second uplink, and you're going to get multi-gig speed on the downlink. And even if they cap it, Dennis, the highest tier plan you could get is 1 gig down and 300 up. That's a great option.
That's a fantastic option.
That is wireless fiber, because cable can't do that.
Sorry, there's the disagreement part. Cable's already doing 2 by 150 based off when I was on your show on Friday. I can't remember who it was.
Which cable provider offers 1 gig down and 300 megabits up
today?
Because this is what these networks can do today. We've got uplink on millimeter wave 5G exceeding 380 megabits up.
Today, no one in the US. But since you're talking about forward looking, cable can definitely do that and more. Like I said, 2 gig down, 150 up. It was whoever it was on Friday was talking about Denver, Colorado when we had Pete on. Remember, they were saying Comcast is coming out with the new tier, and that's using current DOCSIS like 3.1. Like we're not even talking about DOCSIS 4.0. 2 gig down, 150 up. So,
All right, let's take a look here. Snipes. I see the points about future proofing. However, there are many seniors that want simple and plain, especially in the rural areas. It's like politics and the status quo. I'm not really sure what seniors has to do with it, but
he's talking about the elderly people that just have the flip phone, basically. Which I'm gonna be honest here, um, it doesn't matter what they want.
yeah. I mean, they can serve every senior there. I mean, what does it matter what the technology is? I don't think they care, and I don't think anyone else cares for that matter. As long as you could deliver a reliable quality service, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if all they care about is voice calls, then they're gonna be just fine with the low.
Dennis, if DSL could give me 300 by 100, I'd have DSL.
You know the
I don't
funny,
care.
you know what the funny thing is, Sneed? Technically speaking, that could happen. Technically, if
I'm just
DSL and
saying.
telecom companies wanted to.
I'm just saying the name of the technology does nothing for me. It's the actual performance and reliability and speeds and experience, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, the isn't the saying, doesn't how it goes, the proof is in the eating?
you mean the proof's in the pudding?
The proof is in the eating.
I've never heard that saying, Steve.
That is the saying.
I've heard it as the proof is in the pudding, but
What?
I've heard it as the proof is in the pudding. I've never
What if
heard the proof
the
is in the
proof is in
eating.
the pudding? What if you don't eat pudding?
I've never heard it as eating. But
What? Seriously?
dead serious.
What?
Swear to God.
The proof is in the eating, bro.
I've always heard it as the proof is in the pudding.
Good stuff, Dennis. Good stuff. We're throwing curveballs at everybody, man.
But anyway, Cyproni Tech coming in with the big $5 super chat saying, showing the love from Toledo, Ohio. Sneed brother, keep up the great podcast lately.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Glad you're enjoying the show. We got to check out the saying, man. I got to see what this is.
Also, there's a bunch of people agreeing with me that the proof is in the pudding.
What is this?
Also, Tech Guy said I must be dreaming if I think DSL is going to see very high speeds, considering how bad of shape copper telephone lines are.
Oh, the original proverb. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. That's the saying.
Ah,
That's the full saying. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. I was wondering why. I'm like, why are you forgetting part of this? It's the. All right, we're good. Go ahead.
but can you highlight a comment that came in from Tech Guy 32 at 2121?
What was the?
It says, Dennis, you're dreaming if I think DSL is going to see.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So, Tech Guy, I think you misunderstand. I'm not saying in the US that DSL is going to see the high speeds. I'm simply saying that it actually could see those speeds. And the reason why we know that we could see those speeds is because those types of speeds were achieved in DSL in parts of Europe. Am I saying that telecom companies are going to take the time to invest in it? No. Am I saying telecom companies should take the time to invest in doing that to make DSL work? No. I think they should skip straight to fiber.
Right.
But I'm just saying that technically speaking, it's possible. It's possible to get 300 by 100 using DSL. That's all.
Yeah, you could talk theoretical, all day. It's just not going to happen here. And I agree with Dennis. It's time to move on, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. If fiber wasn't as cheap as it was and as future-proof as it was, like if we were talking like 15 years ago, and someone said, hey, we're upgrading so that DSL can get X for the last mile, I'd be like, fine. Not now, though. And the only reason why coaxial cable gets a little bit of a pass is because coaxial cable has infinite amounts of possible more untapped bandwidth in the cable itself than DSL does. I mean, there is 3 gigahertz of usable spectrum in your typical RG59 coaxial cable. And, Sneed, you can do the math on what 3 gigahertz of theoretical speed looks like because it's just like normal wireless spectrum.
Sure.
So that's the only reason why coax gets a slight pass. That and as far as actual like latency and stuff goes, coax, for all intents and purposes, coax cable is very much like an Ethernet cable in your house. For all intents and purposes. So anywho, there's another super chat that came in from Alternate Reality. He said, "Put in winky face."
That's right.
Honestly, I can't do impersonations, but when I was reading that, I was picturing like a Simpsons Homer style voice in my head.
I was thinking about like Bill Cosby back in the day with his pudding.
Oh, Jesus.
You remember back in the day, those commercials?
I do. Nick at Night. Yeah, I do. But, all right. You got an interesting article, topic change. C-band standoff won't be completely resolved by summer, thanks to good old Buttigieg. Tell these fine folks what's going on in the world of C-band right now, because I'm sure people are going to get upset when they hear.
Apparently, politics continue to be a pain in the you-know-what. There was a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing on Thursday. What would that have been, like April 27th or something like that? 28th? The Department of Transportation Secretary, the Honorable, why do they do that? The Honorable Pete Buttigieg said that the C-band thing is still going to be an issue, and it continues to be a top concern. For those of you that are new to the channel and maybe you don't know about this, this appears to be a serious interference risk according to some airline operators. Big shout out to Chaim with the big money super chat coming through the PayPal. Thanks, Chaim. I appreciate all your support, man, and all that you do for us here on the channel.
Also, Steve, real quick, can you get the alternate reality comment off the screen just so that way?
What did you want me to do?
Unhighlight alternate reality's comment. That way it doesn't take up.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, got it. Okay,
there we go.
Yeah, so for those of you that might be new to the channel, or new to the community, possibly, maybe you just jumped on recently and C-band's been awesome and great. Prior to it being awesome and great and being turned on, it was being held up by the Department of Transportation, along with the Federal Aviation Administration, with citing concerns that there was going to be potential for interference between C-band's frequency, which is 3.7 gigahertz, and radio altimeters on some of the planes that operate between the frequencies of, I think, 4.2 to 4.4 gigahertz. Now, that is essentially like the equivalent of you living like 5 houses away from your neighbor, 5 houses down, and them saying, "Oh, I can hear them, eating dinner in their house." That would be the equivalence of that allegation. That's how far 3.7 gigahertz is from 4.2 to 4.4. The chance of risk is essentially impossible as long as the radio gear is functioning properly.
To give you a better, more extreme example, you're more likely to have interference caused by a thing of bananas than this spectrum.
Yeah, this is crazy. And the carriers have already done their studies. The FCC did theirs. They put 220 megahertz of guard band between the frequencies that are used in C-band currently and, what those radio altimeters function for in their frequencies. The FCC disagrees with the claims from the FAA. The carriers disagree. They all did their own studies. All the precautions were taken. Even till now, through all the testing, the FAA still can't prove that there's interference. It doesn't exist. And they are still making this an issue. And I think I know why. You know why, Dennis?
Power?
No, I think because they still have not replaced the altimeters from the 1960s, which may actually truly have interference issues. I think it's that, and yeah, I think there's some power struggle there too. They don't want to give up the power play here, right? They were essentially completely de-emphasized and reduced in their ability to make decisions with gear and all those other things under the previous administration. And here they are trying to flex, trying to regain power back, right? Now, I'm not saying this isn't an issue. 100% you cannot jeopardize the safety of people in planes. But this is very simple. You test your gear to see if indeed does interfere. The carriers have done their part, tested, and they've come to the conclusion if you have properly functioning modernized gear, you will not have trouble. I don't know about planes from the 1960s with radio altimeters that have not been upgraded. We're talking about an industry that is squeezing lemons for the 13th, 14th, 200th time. These are old, really old planes with really old gear that they painstakingly are going to be forced to upgrade. And they probably want the carriers to do it, or they want a handout from the government to do it. Even though they're getting money hand over fist, these flights are expensive, dude.
I mean, yeah, we literally bailed out the aircraft company, even though they spent billions of dollars on stock buybacks. I'm sure they could probably figure out a way to get some money together to upgrade their planes. Like, that's not our responsibility. And honestly, Pete Buttigieg is a clown. Like, he's an actual clown.
I don't understand what his qualifications was for this position.
That's the thing. He doesn't have qualifications. He's a 40-year-old politician who failed at a presidential election and is basically like that boomer on the sidewalk yelling at the kids. Like, dude, it's like actually infuriating because I hate when people that have like, this is well outside the scope of what the Secretary of Transportation should be worrying about. Like, there's a reason why the FCC exists. We talked about this before. You made jokes before about how if the FCC doesn't get us down on this, then just gut the whole department. Remember, we made jokes about it back then?
Yeah.
Just let other departments do their job. And
yeah, this is bad politics, Dennis.
And honestly, if that can't happen, then every other agency has a say now in how aircrafts go. Like, either let departments do their jobs they were created for, or just don't even have departments for anything anymore because everybody has equal say.
Yeah, so a big shout out to Chame with the King Super Chat. Appreciate you there in PayPal, and then Chuck's Tech and Coasters. He offered his super chat here. But Edge is on a power trip. Look what he is doing to the trucking industry. Yo, mods, take care of that for me, please. If you could handle that, thank you. We evaluate people's performances. We evaluate people's credentials. We evaluate, their ability to effectively do their job. None of that other personal stuff matters. It should never matter in any way, shape, or form. So, I know a lot of people are probably displeased with the performance and how they're handling things in this instance. Because here's the thing, Dennis. C-band is not a Verizon thing. It's not an AT&T thing. It's not a T-Mobile thing. It is a wireless industry thing. If it's a problem today, if it's a problem tomorrow, it's going to be a problem next year. I mean, next year, all carriers' licenses are going to be released.
It's not even this. It's not even just about C-band specifically. It's the precedent that gets set. Should the FAA be able to basically put a roadblock in place for a whole methodological process? I mean, if every time new spectrum goes up the air and some other department has an issue for insert whatever reason, and there was some stipulations about early access to be put on air, and that doesn't happen, that causes a whole bunch of issues. Like, the fact that the carriers even bothered to delay their deployment like they did was technically goodwill. Like, legitimately speaking, the carriers had a leg to stand on as far as suing the government goes. I mean, they spent how many extra billions of dollars to be able to deploy it a little bit earlier? Do you remember what the number was, Sneed, for early clearance?
Not offhand.
I don't remember either. I was hoping you would know. Anyway, TLDR, it's the precedent that gets set. Because once the precedent is set, then that causes issues for the future when it comes to your power and authority. We've seen that before with, say, things like the executive branch. Once something is done, there's a reference that happens thanks to that precedence in the event that any further court cases happen. And the same thing happens with these smaller departments. But yeah, I don't know. This sucks.
I will give the carriers credit, especially AT&T and Verizon. They're playing the good guy rule. Says here we're doing everything we can to pursue the technological solutions that I think will be the ultimate long-range fix for this, while in the meantime continue to support the negotiated solutions, which I would note have really worked on a voluntary basis up to now. And I think that is a credit to the collaborative spirit that we were able to reach across industries and players, but has not been replaced by technological fix just yet and won't be completely resolved by this summer. All right, so like I was saying, Verizon is playing nice. AT&T is playing nice. They have just reason to approach a lawsuit with these people getting in the way. I mean,
And I'm saying that
they could potentially be looking to sue two different entities, actually, right? They could go back to the FCC and say, what is going on here?
And I'm saying that the carriers shouldn't have to be playing nice right now.
Right. They could boss up and they could pull their own power move, but they've played nicely up to this point.
But I'm just saying, like, this has long-term ramifications. Like, let's just say Buttigieg succeeds in his like ability to foil the auctions. That means all future auctions will likely end up generating less revenue because that creates uncertainty, and private companies don't like uncertainty in their purchases and investments.
My biggest problem in all of this, Dennis, still remains at the fundamental level. Why in the world are we not using the science? The science states these frequencies will not interfere. These frequencies are too far apart to interfere. The concerns are valid. The testing states, the data says there is no interference. So all you have to do is produce. Show me the baby. You are complaining of labor pains. Show me the baby, FAA. Show me the interference. There is still yet to be one incidence of proof, whether it's from laboratory testing, controlled testing, or actual real-world interference. There is not a single incident. There are no planes falling from the sky. There are no altimeters failing. And I can't wrap my mind around this. I'm a man of science, Dennis. I'm a science educator. I teach the scientific process. That is the fundamental basis of biology, chemistry, everything. You are complaining of labor pains. FAA, show me the baby.
And Sneed, I think it's worth pointing out in case it has been said, but please remember, even if there was, even in a hypothetical world where there was interference, please remember, everyone, that these macro cell sites are not pointing at the sky. These towers tend to have a down tilt. So, like, even if there was the potential for interference, even with the most oldest of planes, the signal wouldn't be going towards the altimeters in the sky. It's pointed down at the ground.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe this is going to continue to be an issue moving forward. Unreal.
Also, Sneed, I'm just going to say it again, don't forget to remove the comments. The reason why I say this is because it affects the screen view, so it makes your big screen tinier when you have the comments highlighted.
Yeah, I got you. But I mean, everybody can see this in this case, Dennis.
No worries.
All right. So
I just say because I know some people complain about not seeing.
Yeah, this shouldn't be too bad. We can transition to the next story though.
Okay, and the next story is
Charter Wi-Fi helping boosting mobile user speeds on their network experience.
Ooh,
I know. I figured you'd dig this, Dennis. I know this is right up your alley, dog.
So basically, it's basically Wi-Fi hotspots like Xfinity's been doing for about a decade now.
Yeah. Yep. Here we go. Fierce Wireless, Linda Hardesty. Let me give you guys a link. I know you guys like that, so let me go ahead and put that in the live chat, and then we can go ahead and proceed with the story. Right, there you guys go. If you want to pull it up now or later. Charter taps its Wi-Fi to provide speed boost for its mobile customers. Linda Hardesty, April 29th, Fierce Wireless. All right, so Charter announced that it has a total residential and SMB mobile lines increased by 373,000. They have, I believe, almost 4 million mobile lines at this point. Wow, man. They are adding tons of users. Now, you would think, okay, well, that's an issue. That's going to make Verizon's mobile network much slower. Au contraire, mon frere, CEO for Charter Tom Rutledge said, in April, we began the market rollout of Mobile Speed Boost. Mobile Speed Boost allows Spectrum Mobile customers to receive speeds up to 1 gigabit per second on their Spectrum Mobile service devices when inside their homes, even when their provisioned wireline internet speed is less than a gigabit. What do you think of that, Mr. Dennis?
I think it's incredible, and I think that it is one of the reasons why cable companies should be so focused on ensuring that their customers actually get their provision gateways, because that's the only way this works. Because, Sneed, I don't know if you knew this or not, but the gateways that Spectrum and Xfinity send out actually have hidden Wi-Fi. Um,
Hotspots.
yes, they're like
Yeah.
hidden frequencies. There's about there's 8 antenna typically in these gateways. There's the two that the consumer sees for their personal home internet use, one for the 2.4 gigahertz channel, one for the 5 gigahertz channel.
Mm-hmm.
There's typically like another two that are set aside for things like home security, another two that are set aside for like guest, like Wi-Fi hotspots, and then there's another two specifically dedicated and set aside for the mobile piece. And the interesting thing is, which is touched on here, is that the cable operators have figured out a way to sort of network slice the bandwidth so that there's always a gigabit available for just the cell phone use case, which I think is really good.
Yeah, that's
Um,
phenomenal. They basically have a hidden gigabit level channel, right?
yeah,
Yeah, very
and
cool.
I think this is a very effective way to offload traffic. It kind of touches on the thing that we were talking about on yesterday's special episode, where we were saying that one of the wireless pain points that has been addressed is getting equipment in people's houses for those fringe areas of signal and coverage. And I think this is an effective way to accomplish it by killing two birds with one stone.
Well, check this out. 85% of customers' mobile usage goes through Charter's Wi-Fi. When a customer is at home, their mobile service connects or their mobile device connects to their private Wi-Fi network. The Wi-Fi network will then identify the Spectrum mobile device and deliver the speed boost. So it's, it's like switching, between those available connections. All right. So this was announced at a Morgan Stanley conference back in March. It looks like it's active now, where they said that they were going to launch this. All right. Now, there's more to this. Rutledge went on to speak about offloading more data traffic through their CBRS spectrum. For those of you that don't know, they do have spectrum licenses in the 3.5 gigahertz frequencies. I think it's like is it 3.55 to like 3.65, so that frequency range there, uh that CBRS, they've got, I think, some licensed spectrum as well as some unlicensed stuff that they could use. It is available first come first served basis, and they're going to be building these strand mount sites, these small cells that they can essentially attach to all their overhanging aerials, and they can put them in like on macro sites. Like, they could essentially build a small network where they find customers are using the most data. So, like, all they have to do is an evaluation. Hey, where are these high usage customers hanging out using all this Verizon data? We're going to put small cells there.
And Sneed, something worth mentioning that isn't talked about in this article, as best I can tell, is that don't forget, but Charter, Spectrum, and Comcast Xfinity are actually working closer and closer together. I don't know if you knew this or not, Sneed, but Spectrum mobile customers actually get access to Xfinity Mobile's hotspot connections and
Yeah.
Xfinity CBRS spectrum, and vice versa. So even in the places where Charter doesn't have a native network themselves for footprint, if they roam on Comcast, because Comcast is doing a similar thing, customers will still see a benefit.
I'm going to give the cable industry, let's call them Cable Town. All right. Spectrum and Comcast, or Charter and Comcast, I should say, technical names. Let's give them some credit. They crunch numbers. They run really deep analysis on profit, right? They look at, the return of investments, the revenue streams. They made decisions to go into wireless because they knew that fixed wireless access was coming. They had to do something, and they did. And now with all these wireless customers, they knew we got to get these people off of Verizon because we're paying for a lot of data. We're not the mobile network operator, but let's become that. Let's become our customers' mobile network operator. We'll get them on all our Wi-Fi hotspots wherever we offer it in our footprint, and then we're going to let them be on their house connection, right, using this boost feature. And then let's put the small cells where we find people are using the most data, right? So let's say, for example, the Robinson Mall has a lot of, I don't know, customers that are on, Charter's service.
Comcast.
Yeah. So if there's a lot of them there, you put a small cell right outside there. You connect it. You do it indoors. You do a DAS. Like, you get them off of that Verizon network as much as possible,
It's
and you
funny you
reduce your overhead.
mentioned funny you mentioned the Robinson Mall, because if you remember, what did you say you noticed when you were coming into Pittsburgh?
Initially, I was connecting to a bunch of Wi-Fi hotspots when I was driving by banks.
Yes. And the Robinson Mall specifically,
It's got DAS, yeah.
every single one of those businesses is using Comcast internet, which means every single one of them is broadcasting an Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspot. So when you're in a place like the Robinson Mall, you are consistently getting bombarded basically with the equivalent of hundreds of small cells.
Yeah, you got the DAS systems, the antennas are everywhere. So, like, your usage, let's say you use 30 gigs of data a month, you might only be using 5 gigs of Verizon data. You legit might be doing 75 to 85% of your data usage on your home Wi-Fi, the speed boost feature, right? And then all those hotspots. And if they add more of those small cells and start utilizing that CBRS, that's just more offloading.
And remember too, this does have benefits for the consumer as well. The more data that goes over the Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi hotspots, the less cell phone data is used. The less cell phone data is used, the less expensive of a mobile data package you need.
That's right.
So this has multiple benefits, not just for Comcast, but for consumers as well.
And Verizon's got the big network, right? LTE, as dependable as it comes, and they're building up all this 5G, and they've got all the tower sites, and everywhere they travel, they'll be covered.
Now
Wherever.
there is one thing I would like to touch on. As awesome as this tech is, don't get it twisted, it's pretty cool. I do think it would be nice if the big cable town companies would actually invest a little bit more into some proper spectrum. So, whether that be like 60 megahertz of C band or something, that would be really good. Because as you and I know, Sneed, Wi-Fi does have its own host of issues with range, interference that comes from it from being limited amounts of channels. And
Sure.
sometimes too, we know in the real world, smartphones, depending on manufacturer, might not be too smart when it comes to actually choosing the
Oh, yeah.
best option. So,
And the radio performance, could be limited.
yeah, so that is one thing I'd like to call out. And I guess in short here, I really hope that big cable takes a more aggressive focus on acquiring some more spectrum for themselves. It doesn't have to be as crazy as Verizon, but I think it would be nice if we could see the cable companies, at least Spectrum and Comcast at the very least, have at least a total of 150 megahertz, I would say, of their own spectrum. I think that'd be a nice little spot to have for their use case.
You ready for a Sneed hot take?
Oh, absolutely. Those are a rare thing to see, but I'm down. Let's go.
This one's a hot take. I know when Verizon is going to start competing. I know when they're going to do it. And I know what it's going to take. They are going to start competing when it comes to pricing, features, the high resolution playback, all that stuff. When they've had enough of getting beat up by Charter and Comcast and Wireless. And the reason I say that is because there is going to come a time where 90% of Charter and Spectrum customers that are using wireless are going to be on native Charter and Spectrum networking, Wi-Fi hotspots, home Wi-Fi, that speed boost feature, and the small cells and the CBRS. It's going to be less than 10% Verizon data usage. Verizon is going to be forced to have to fight for those customers to get them on their proper branding. Because if they end up using 1 or 2 gigs of data on Verizon, there's just simply not enough usage on there to warrant a return of investment. It's as simple as that. Like if Comcast or Charter is paying $2 a gig, Verizon's going to take $4 a customer. They're going to say, what's the point? We might as well fight for those customers, get them on our service so we can make more money. But they're going to have to compete in pricing in order to do that. And they're going to have to try to get them on fixed wireless and give them a discount. And it may be too late, Dennis. It may be too little too late.
Yeah, Pandora's box has already kind of happened. I don't think there's really any going back on this. And I'll be honest, it's going to take Verizon years to both compete and translate that competition message back to consumers. I mean, I'll put it to you this way, Sneed. Remember
Does
how you
Verizon become the super MVNO if they lose all that traffic? Do they have to look at companies like Mobile X and US Mobile and all of that and try to become this incredible wholesaler? Do they have to try to get all the T-Mobile wholesale accounts? Do they have to try to get the H2O wirelesses of the world? Do they you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? Where are you going to get the clientele?
Yeah, I don't know, but I will say this. I think it'll be quite a bit of years before we see a transition in that approach, because I don't think Verizon. I think it would be a suicide pill for Verizon to start stepping on their MVNO partners' toes, I guess is what I'm going for here. I don't think that's good for Verizon as a holistic picture. But what's up, Vivian?
Vivian came for the millimeter wave.
We talked about at the beginning of the show, the millimeter wave talk.
Yeah. Yeah, she missed it. That's okay. Hashtag replay crew. We're just glad to have you. It's been a while since we saw you on the show. Thanks for stopping by. I've never heard that word before. Dulcet? Is that it? Using big words, Vivian? You're all educated and such. I don't know what that means.
I'm Google searching the word. It means especially it's a sweet and soothing, often used ironically.
Oh, Dennis, one time somebody told me that they enjoyed my podcast and it would help them sleep. Like, and I thought to myself, should I feel disrespected or should I feel like that's a compliment? And I think it was meant as a compliment, so I'll take it that way.
Hey, Tech with Obed came in with a comment. He said,
Oh,
"What's
my
going
dude,
on,
so
Steve?
bad. What up, man?
Comcast is rolling out fiber in Boston."
Nice, dude.
I
That's
haven't
awesome.
seen any reports of it on.
That's a FiOS market, Dennis.
Yeah, I know it's a big one for Fios. Probably one of Fios' largest markets, to be honest.
Yeah, they got a big stronghold there. And by the way, that's one of the markets where they're very highly rated.
Yeah, it's almost like giving time and attention to your fiber product has benefits.
So the crazy thing is, Dennis, is we got this last story, man. Let's do this one. This one's pretty good too. All right. This one is I have difficulty framing only because it's very it's a personal thing that I've been watching and following on Twitter. Is there's there's talk about how like fiber companies are overbuilding and it's leading to their like demise, like their bankruptcy. And I disagree with that. I don't think fiber leads to bankruptcy. I think bad companies go bankrupt, and I don't think fiber has anything to do with it. I think 20 years of bad operations and then trying to save your company with fiber can bury a company, right? That's how I look at it. So here's Altice, right? Perfect example. Fierce Telecom. Let me give you guys the link. I probably should have put these in the show notes to start the show, but that's okay. We're going to put it here in the live chat so you guys can click on this now or read it later. All right, it says here, Altice USA loses 13,000 broadband subs as it waits for their fiber growth. Deanna Goveritz, April 29th. This is Fierce Telecom. All right, so Altice USA, and by the way, this is Optimum. Don't get it twisted. Altice is Optimum, one and the same. Declines in revenue, declines in profit, Q1 2022. Revenue fell 2.3%. Residential revenue down 3.6%. Net income 196 from 274. Operator lost 13,000 broadband subs after gaining 12,000 in Q1 a year over year. They shed 74,000 video subs. This company has been trending down for a long time. The fact that they are now offering fiber will not be the reason that they go under. It will be the reason that they're going under is because they are a poorly conducted, operated company that has been messing up for several quarters, several years.
Just to give you some perspective of how bad this company is, this is the company that reduced their upload speeds across all of their plans to quote unquote bring it in line with market. So, Sneed, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Altice used to offer 35 meg upload basically across the board on their cable DOCSIS.
And then they downgraded it.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're also the company that in areas where customers had gig with 35 up, there was an issue with like basically congestion at the node because some dude was like just absolutely destroying it with like internet use. Well, instead of just punishing that one person, they literally in that given area slowed the speeds down for everybody's upload capped at 10 meg regardless of speed tier. So yes, this is an example of a company that runs their business bad, and clearly that is the reason why they're seeing losses, not because of the fact that they're deploying fiber.
If they just ran cable but ran their company well, the fiber doesn't matter. Like the fact that they're building fiber is great. I love it. It's incredible. It's the best case scenario. We love fiber here, Dennis, right? But the company is trash. So like I've had this discussion with Alexis from the Patreon community. These are garbage cans with gold handles. Right? The fiber is the gold handles. You've got the shiny new product. It's great. But the company is still trash. And this is not a personal slight at anyone. This company is having trouble competing because of pricing, because of the uplink downgrades, failure to find customer care, consistency, treating customers well, billing issues. I've heard a lot of things about Altice. And now that they're ramping up fiber to the home, fiber to the premise build outs, they're still seeing churn. They're still having issues. No crap. You can't just sell a good product, right? You can't just sell a new technology. You have to actually service the customer. You know what I mean? Like,
and Sneak, can I just say something real quick too, since you're talking
Yeah.
about pricing? The article mentions this, but if you also go on their website, Altice is already giving very aggressive promos. Like, Sneak, I just double checked real fast. Take a guess what Altice is charging for gig internet, just right off the rip.
$50.
$50, exactly. That is quite literally half the cost of what Verizon charges.
Now, why do they have to price that? Is because they have to compete, right? They have been the lesser brand for a long time, and they have to try to change people's minds. And somebody will say, well, okay, I know Altice has a bad reputation, but at this attractive price point, maybe I should give them a second shot. Maybe that converts for them.
Yeah, and if you look at the router that they're dishing out, they're actually not dishing out a bad router at all. It looks like they're dishing out a Wi-Fi 6 kind of mesh setup. And they actually have an introductory plan as well for 300 meg symmetrical for 30. So their pricing is very aggressive. This is just a matter of a brand being so bad that, as you kind of touched on, Sneed, people don't want to go back, kind of like your feelings on Cox.
That's right. All right, now here is the other side of this. Shentel revenue rises as Glow Fiber net adds jump 76% year over year. This is what I'm talking about, Dennis. This story from Fierce Telecom, Deanna Govertz, same authors, same type of article. Here's a company that operates better. Here's a company that has placed customer care and customer experience as a priority. They're not messing up for 10 years and then trying to fix and clean up. This is a company that understands that they have customers they can serve. They want to do it right from the beginning. All right, so regional
So
U.S. operator. I don't know if you guys know Shentel. They operate in like, I don't know, what would you call it? Appalachia, I
yeah, they
suppose.
operate in West Virginia, but Sneed, I need to make a small correction to you real quick. Shentel is actually a very much hated company. However, I think the rebranding with Glow Fiber and the fact that they kind of hide that it's Shentel is actually the reason that helps
Ah,
them.
there you go.
In the same vein that Comcast, if you remember, used to be I think was ranked number one most hated company at one point, and they did that rebrand. They're expanding, and you notice that their satisfaction scores went up and everything like that. I think it's similar things at play here with Shentel.
Viv, you're hilarious. Super sticker from Teddy. He said, "Wait for it. Words with a clock." It's like-
I don't get it.
Teddy, man, it's a long time, man. It's been a while, man. Hope all is well in your world, man. We haven't chatted in a while, but good to see you here. The Chantel situation, Dennis, we caught wind of this last year after the merger closing. Well, actually, it was just a little bit under 2 years. The question became, what was Chantel going to do now that they were out of the wireless business, right? T-Mobile essentially bought their assets, but they didn't buy their fiber and they didn't buy the wireline business from them. Like that was not associated with Sprint. The Sprint partnership was completely wireless. So they're like, oh, well, we made a lot of money on the Chantel deal. Shareholders were rewarded. And they're like, okay, we'll just build out fiber. And it looks like it's been great for them. In Q1, Chantel added 18,000 new Glow fiber passings, totaling nearly 94,000. COO said it has new secured the necessary franchise approvals for a total of 339,000 Glow fiber passings. That's really good. Looks like the end game was to get to 450,000 by 2026. That's a nice reach, don't you think, Dennis, for the place where this is found?
I definitely do. And as I was reading this, I'm also encouraged by the fact that they're actually taking advantage of the government grants as intended. If
Oh,
you,
for building and stuff, right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
like, in the example of Altice, they were talking about how building fire makes them go broke. Well, there's lots of grants. If you just do what's expected, it doesn't have to make you go broke. And clearly, Shint tells a story of that. They are maximizing dollar for dollar spent to get fiber out to as many people as possible, and they're being rewarded for it because the places where they're going, there was no other option. So every time they connect one of those rural people, they're guaranteed to get a customer. So good for Shentel, and I'm excited that they're expanding fiber.
And they're doing fixed wireless also, where they're not able to get those fiber passings, I suppose. It says here that Chantel announced plans to pause the expansion of Beam fixed wireless access product in order to focus on fiber. That's really good.
Yeah,
I'm really
notice they
happy
use
about
the
that.
word unprofitable beam sites.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's cheaper for them to just run fiber than to deal with the fixed wireless. That's
I think
funny.
I think what it is, Dennis, is they're like, well, we can charge. I don't know what they're going to charge actually, but let's just make up a arbitrary number. Let's say they can charge $80 a month or $100 a month for the fiber and have very happy customers, or they could do some kind of like, I don't know,
Sneed, I
makeshift
got, I
fixed
got,
wireless
Sneed, I
access.
got the pricing tiers for you, bud.
Yeah.
Their lowest tier for fiber is 300 by 300 for 65. They offer 1 gig for 80, and they're offering 2 gig symmetrical for 100. Which, side note, that is the cheapest 2 gig symmetrical pricing that I think I've seen so far from a fiber provider.
That beats AT&T at 110.
Yes,
Yeah, that's pretty good. Good stuff by Chantel. I think they're
words
going
that
to have a
I
lot of
never
happy
thought would.
customers.
Yeah, words that I never thought would come out of my mouth, but
Goodbye, Chantel.
well, yeah, but yeah, Glow Fiber seems legit. Uh, it's definitely a little rough on the entry level side, but as far as the premium customers go, their pricing's phenomenal, and I wish they would. I wish they would consider coming up to Pittsburgh to give Verizon competition.
So what do you think, Dennis? Does fiber bury a company? Does the
No,
fiber investment bury a company?
absolutely not. It saves companies.
Bad companies bury bad companies. Horrible CEOs, making bad decisions, not understanding the premise of the business, which is making customers happy. So they don't have a problem paying their bill every month. This is what I'm talking about. That's a good business transaction, Dennis. When a customer gets what they pay for, the person selling the service or the goods collects the funding, the money, the revenue, and the person receiving the service of the products is satisfied. It's the name of the game. If you're getting what you're paying for, you're happy. When you don't feel like you're getting what you're paying for, you're dissatisfied. You're disgruntled, you're angry, and it makes you want to leave.
Can I say something that's slightly unpopular, Sneed?
Well, you got to be careful, man. Is this communist Dennis, socialist Dennis? Which version of Dennis are we getting right now?
This actually might be a capitalist version of Dennis.
Capitalist Dennis? Okay.
When it comes to customers, I feel like specifically in the internet telecom space, you're going to have a heavy proportion of customers that are just going to be upset regardless. Mainly because they don't fundamentally understand the technology, and the limiting factors are things outside of the ISP's control. And by that, I mean, you'll find that a lot of people, when they complain about, like, say, slow internet, even with like AT&T fiber, right? And you look at like Reddit when people are posting about it, you'll notice they're testing with Wi-Fi, not hardwired. Or, people miss their bills. They get mad when their service gets shut off because they didn't pay their service, and other little things like that, right? So I feel like no matter how good Chantel is, no matter how good Verizon is, no matter how good AT&T is, when it comes to this specific industry, in an industry where there's not that much choice, I think there's always going to be at least a third of customers that are upset, even if they have literally Jesus himself offering that internet.
I mean, I just look at Sprint, Dennis. Sprint had spectrum for days. Industry-leading spectrum holdings. They were in the prime position. They were in the best spectrum position for 5G. All that spectrum, all that PCS, all the EBS, BRS, they were ready to rock and roll. And their company failed for years, flailing, trying anything, giving their service away. The company was buried because they were trash, right? They were just so poorly operated, and I look at all these examples in corporate America, and I look at companies like Chantel who have pivoted and done something right. And we see Altice and how it's manifested itself. It was just horribly run, bad decisions. And I had to put this out there. I thought this was a great topic to discuss. And I don't know. What do you think? You think it was worth bringing up tonight?
100%. 100%. Also, we have a few comments coming in. One that you have highlighted, which is from Gabe. I think he told us to call him Gabe last time.
Yep. Gabe, what up?
He said, I got to work tonight, picked up an extra shift, but I wanted to stop by and say hello. Well, Gabe, thank you for stopping by, and thank you for supporting the SMT channel. And then we got a secondary super chat that came in from Theodore.
Thanks, Gil.
He says, consumer booster for AT&T, just like T-Mobile cell spots, both suck. Exactly the same model, just set up differently with registration and the logo and the color.
So, Teddy, did you end up returning it, being unsatisfied with it? Because, I mean, we were pretty amped up about this. And thanks for the super chat, man. And thanks for all that you do. Hashtag telco Jesus. What is this?
I think it was in comment about my thing where I said Jesus himself could offer it and people would be mad. Honestly, I would love it if that became my nickname. I do have a beard, but
Vivian says it's actually very, very stupid to duplicate infrastructure in any circumstance. And it's extra stupid in the case of wireless services, considering that the RF spectrum is finite and precious.
This is a point that I 100% agree with Vivian. It would be better for consolidation to happen where all carriers were sharing the spectrum for more efficient use. I mean, we've seen the benefits that come from contiguous spectrum, right, Sneed?
You were definitely wearing the communist Dennis hat right now.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree with this, although I will say some level of duplication and redundancy I'm also in favor of when it comes to networking, but I know Vivian probably didn't mean what I was going for with that. So yeah, I agree with Vivian's point.
Yeah, the one thing that I do know about American networks, though, is they try to distinguish themselves with performance. Like yeah, they all try to offer free iPhones and Galaxies and trade-ins, For the most part, you can get a free phone at a carrier. And the way that they try to get you to choose them is saying, well, our network is faster, our network is bigger, our network is better, it's more reliable, it's whatever descriptor or adjective they want to use, you know. And I don't know, that's just kind of the way it's always been. Verizon's calling card, the most reliable, the biggest. And today, it's AT&T, secure, and all this, and T-Mobile, the most 5G, the best 5G, the fastest 5G. They all try to separate themselves through their network. True or false, that's their marketing, you know.
Side note, David has decreed it from henceforth. Dennis will be known as Telco Jesus. So it's been written, so it is done. Honestly, Pete looks more like Jesus than me, but I'm gonna take that from now on. Sneed, I've been anointed. I've been baptized by David. I am Telco Jesus from now on.
Oh my goodness, this is incredible. What a
I'm
day.
gonna buy a Jesus whenever Halloween gets closer. I'm gonna buy a Jesus costume, and we're gonna do a special Halloween show. That's gonna happen. That has to happen.
That is hilarious.
Yes, that's the new hashtag. You can tweet at DennisBP3 on Twitter, hashtag TelcoJesus whenever you want to reach me. Yep.
Bro, somebody called me. I forget the video. It might have been like a month ago. I do so many videos, I can't track them. But I think he called me Telco Poppy. Like completely out of nowhere. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Well, you are the father of the SMT community, and is the Spanish word for father. So,
Oh
yeah,
man, that is
hashtag
crazy.
Telco Poppy.
That is crazy, man. And like I may have actually laughed out loud like in real life. I like, how we put LOL, and stuff like that. But like legit, I think I actually did laugh out loud. I was rolling, man.
Hey, Collective Rob's on board.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, no moose though, man. The
I
wild,
know.
mysterious moose. It's like Bigfoot sightings, man.
I know. We didn't get a moose sighting tonight, but it was a good show, Dennis. Nice job, man. Well
Thank you,
done.
man.
You
Hey,
you carried me well, dude. I'm kind of heavy, so you carried me across the finish line. Nice job.
there was no carrying, man. We it's like a boat in the ocean. The rising tides, we rise together. It's a perfect dynamic. But I
Tremendous.
think this is a good spot to end it. I know that you've been doing your thing, so you're probably a little bit tired. And but before we do that, I just want to re-thank all the supporters that support my man here, Sneed. He makes some great content, and I know he's very appreciative of your generosity, and I know I'm appreciative of seeing the generosity. I appreciate all the friendly faces that also support me over at the Best Phone Plans channel. You guys are absolutely the best and what make doing this so fun. And Wednesday, I'll call it out now. Wednesday, I'll be hanging out with a buddy, so you probably won't see me on Sneed's channel on Wednesday, but Thursday, we'll definitely be going live for Best Phone Plans. I'm sure I'll be here on Friday with Sneed again if Sneed does his normal streams. So look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Yeah, we'll definitely be doing a live stream on Wednesday after the uncarrier announcement. I'll do a regular video, but I'm definitely also going to do like a follow-up podcast to discuss it. And then I'll try to bring on a few talking heads. We'll see if we'll see if we can find Moose. We don't know where he is. We'll look for a Moose sighting. Maybe Tech Life Tyrone could be there. I'll send out some invites and see if we can get some people there. And
You know who might be a good guest? Why don't you get Carlos back on?
yeah, definitely. Los like the one thing about Carlos though is I know he's busy. I mean, I'll definitely send the invite. But dude, he is doing his thing with Dish, man. He's I know a lot of people like, you see him at like sporadic times randomly doing a live stream here and there and doing a video. But like dude is busy, man. I talk to him every so often and he's always working,
Yeah,
you
he's
know, and
got the car biz, he's got the Dish gig, he's got the
yeah.
YouTube channel, the car channel. Dude, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah. But yeah, and he always, he puts it on thick for the Magenta carrier, so
Oh, I'm aware, but the reason why I pointed it out is because I'm not very optimistic about this uncarrier event, and I feel like it needs a little bit of thickness to call out the marketing.
I hear you, man. A lot of people, they just like if you're gonna call it an uncarry announcement, it better be good. You know.
Dude, I I don't know, but hey, real quick, I thought of one last quick topic that would be worth mentioning. Um, so I think it's Brad 100. Yeah, Brad 100. If you remember, I think on Sunday we had talked about his situation. He has Comcast internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sneed, I just want to ask. I was a little bit more blunt towards the end, but like to Brad, who's kind of like pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Discontent, I guess would be. It's not really the word I want, but like, what are your thoughts on Brad's situation with the Comcast internet?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's just the pricing. You know, when you don't have options, when you don't have competitors, you're kind of I suppose, like a slave to the price, right? You have no pricing pressure. So as long as the service is reliable and good, then it's acceptable. But we do like to see pricing reduced. So like he might be having to pay like $100 a month for good cable, you know, and it's fine, right? Like you mentioned it. You said, hey, the service is good. What else could you ask for? Well, the last piece to that is getting a better price. It makes you feel better about the experience.
Yeah, but I guess I bring it up because remember how you were talking about if the service is good, if the whatever is good, everything kind of follows when we were talking about fiber earlier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, cable, right? Service is good, right? Everything else aside from the explosive pricing is good. And it sounds like Brad, when we talked, is outside that explosive pricing period. So he's like at a stable pricing. It's at some point, it's just worth it, right? Like, yes, no, maybe so.
I mean, yeah, I believe if service is reliable and it performs well, then it's often worth whatever the asking price is. I mean, is anybody going to have trouble paying an $80 internet bill if that's what the cable company is charging? I think in most cases people can afford to pay that, and if they don't, they might qualify for a subsidy.
The ACP program, $30 off if you qualify.
So that brings it down to 50. That makes it a little bit more affordable. I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it, is try to make it work, you know, cut some costs somewhere else. Hopefully it doesn't impact your life too much. It shouldn't, but if it does, maybe you kind of fit the bill of maybe getting some aid, you know, and getting that discount.
Yeah, the only reason why I brought it up is because I have perspective of what bad internet is. I mean, I got to experience dial up, like actual real dial up. I got to experience a 1.5 meg DSL connection. I remember going to the library to get higher speed internet. I experienced bad cable. I experienced bad fiber. I've experienced a lot of things. And I guess what I'm trying to give to people, because I know a lot of people don't get that wealth of perspective, because you're typically stuck with one company pretty much your whole life, is that there is so much worse than cable internet. Like there really is, especially Comcast cable internet. Like Sneed, you made it clear that Cox is basically the devil.
Trash. Trash.
And I would say that Comcast might as well be a saint in comparison to the horrors that you told me about Cox.
Yeah.
So
Trash. Garbage can residue, man.
just giving that perspective. And then also, Brad, as far as Xfinity Mobile goes, I saw you talking about Verizon and stuff like that. I think Sneed would agree with me that Xfinity Mobile isn't bad. Neither is US Mobile. If you can do that to save some money, and that's what you need to do, I mean, and that's what it comes down to, those might be worth considering.
Yeah, that's a good way to save the money. You know, bundling services can save you some dough. So now it's official. Dennis is Telco Jesus, and I am Telco Poppy. Apparently,
Hashtag Telco Poppy,
that's
baby.
it. So I've got like 3 aliases now. We've got wait, what is it? Midband Man and Mr. Millimeter Wave, and now we got Telco Poppy. I got like 3 identities, dog.
I'm gonna have to speak to the Church of Keon and show them the light of hashtag Telco Dennis.
Telco
I'm gonna have
Jesus.
to forgive them of their sins and their blasphemy for talking about how backhaul doesn't matter.
T1 lines, baby. All right. Hashtag Ravioli Gang. Hashtag 2 Live Crew. Hashtag Replay Crew. Hashtag save the bear, hashtag help the bear, hashtag telco Jesus, hashtag telco poppy. And I think that's all the hashtag. That's good enough, man. Anything else for the good of the order, Dennis?
No, I just want to thank everyone again, and if you're still having the itch for some more content, that's pretty delicious. Recommend checking out the Best Phone Plans channel. I said it before, but there was a great show with Ahmed Talk that we had on as a guest, and then Sneed was there for the after show. And I would definitely appreciate the support and sharing of those videos with a friend or family member. And also make sure you smash like on this channel's video. Make sure you're subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you don't miss the daily uploads from Sneed. And make sure you also share this video with a friend, maybe on Reddit or your favorite social media platform. But with that, guys, I just want to say peace.